Hi everyone, welcome back to Books and Backbone. I'm Donna Harris, CEO of Bookkeeping Made Simple, your host. And today I want to talk about the conversation most business owners avoid. What could that be? Not the tax conversation, not the pricing conversation, the one where you pick up the phone and call a client who hasn't paid their invoice. I know, even hearing that sentence made some of you uncomfortable, and that discomfort, that instinct to send another email instead of making the call, to wait one more week before following up, to write it off rather than have an awkward conversation is costing you real money. Today, we're going to fix that. Now, by way of full disclosure, when I started working in accounting, one of my first jobs was actually collections. I worked for a hospital back east. I was a patient accounts clerk, and part of my job was to call patients who had just had the worst days of their life and tell them that they owed money. So I understand the visceral response to, oh my, I don't want to pick up the phone and call someone and say they owe me money. I understand that. Okay. But this is costing you money that you earned. We're going to fix that. We're not going to try to make you more aggressive. We're not going to turn you into a collections department, but we are going to give you a process, a simple, respectful, relationship preserving process for getting paid what you've earned without losing the clients you've built. Let me start by kind of naming why this is uncomfortable, because I think understanding it makes it easier to move past. Again, I spent a great deal of my career in doing collections, even though I didn't work for a collections agency. My job was, as an employee of the firm that was owed the money, was to make these phone calls and to send those emails and send those letters and send those invoices. And I remember calling, and this was almost 30 years ago, but I remember calling and, sorry, my cat is in the office, and talking to one of my hometown businesses and literally saying, I just moved to Utah and I got your name on my list and I used to live right across the street from you. Would you please pay the bill so we don't make all of Paducah look bad? And I just kind of laughed around with them, and lo and behold, they said, here, take my credit card number, we'll do it over the phone. So I really want to talk about why do we avoid these conversations and how to do this without damaging the relationship. The first one, the number one fear most business owners have is they're afraid of damaging the relationship. The client's been with you for 2 years, you like them, you want to keep their business, and asking about an overdue invoice feels like it might change something, make things awkward, signal distrust, create friction where there wasn't any. The second story is the story they're telling themselves. Well, maybe the client's going through a hard time. Maybe they forgot. Maybe the invoice just got buried. It feels unkind to push when you don't know the circumstances. And the third is the hope that it will resolve itself. They'll pay eventually. They always have before. Another week, it'll probably clear. Right? All of these are understandable. And all three of them left unchecked turn a 30-day receivable into a 90-day one and a 90-day one into a write-off. Let me tell you about a friend of mine, actually a very good friend of mine. We've become close. Um, I was actually his client. He was going to do some marketing for me. Um, really liked the guy. It got to the end, and he was bold enough to keep saying, "So when can I expect a payment?" So it was always he was never unkind about it. By the way, I treasure my relationship with this man. He's like my son's age. He's absolutely adorable, and he lives in Texas. I just really think the world of him. But he kept bringing up, and remember, let me know how I can help you pay this invoice. This is especially important because when money does come in, people will send it to the noisiest person first. So I want you to kind of keep this in mind. I do have a dear friend. I owed him a fair amount of money. And at least to me, it was a fair amount of money. To him, it was a fair amount of money. And he was very kind and gracious and understanding, but at the same time, he didn't let me get away with not paying him. And he also told me that a lot of small business owners will pay the big businesses first, which is understandable. Big businesses have processes and systems that do all this in the background almost. They have whole departments whose whole job is to call people. You don't become a big business by acting like you're a small business. So we're going to really kind of get into this. The clients that take advantage of the silence, that's a different conversation. And learning to tell them apart clearly and early is one of the most valuable skills a business owner can develop. Now, sometimes they really are having a hard time, but you still want to have the conversation with them because you want to, one, if they're having a hard time, you want to know about it. If one of my clients says I'm having a really hard time, one, I'm probably going to suspend their service till they've got it resolved. But two, I'm also going to follow up and check on them. I put it on my calendar. So-and-so's son passed away last year. Send a sympathy card. Just send her something way after the date that lets her know that I was thinking of her. I was having a hard time with a lot of things that I'm not going to go into in this video. And my friend, he kept bringing it up, but he was never unkind about it. So let's start by talking about, before I give you the process, and it's going to go into the emotional part, I want to talk about the tool that makes this possible, and that is the Accounts Receivable Aging Report. If you're using QuickBooks, and almost everybody is, if you're not using QuickBooks, you should be. Because FreshBooks and Xero, I've used them and they're terrible. And no, Intuit is not paying me to say that I like QuickBooks, I genuinely do. Anyway, if you're using QuickBooks, most of you are, the report's already there. It lists every outstanding invoice, organized by how long it's been outstanding, current, 1 to 30 days, 31 to 60, 61 to 90, and over 90. This report is the most important cash flow tool most business owners are not using. So here's what I want you to do. Pull it out right now, or pull it tonight, and look at it with fresh eyes. Everything in the current column is normal. This is the business of doing business. Everything in the 1 to 30 column deserves a watch. You're not panicking, but a watch. Everything in the 31 to 60 column needs a follow-up this week, not next week, this week. Everything in the 60 to 90 column needs a phone call today. And everything over 90 days is the collection situation. And every day it sits there, the probability of collecting it goes down. The aging report tells you where every dollar is and how long it's been sitting. Once you're looking at it weekly, not monthly, not quarterly, weekly, the 90-day receivables almost disappear because you catch them at 35 days when they're still easy to collect. The actual information that I got from working in collections was that after 90 days, most of these become almost impossible to collect. So let me walk you through the actual process step by step and tell you what to say at each stage. Step 1, the invoice reminder at 30 days. This is not a collections conversation. This is a gentle, professional nudge that assumes good faith. Email works here. Just keep it short and warm. Hey, just a quick note that invoice number such and such for this amount was due on the date. Please let me know if you have any questions or if there's anything I can do to help move this along. Thank you. That's it. No drama, no accusation, just a visible, friendly reminder that the invoice exists and is overdue. Most clients with 30 days pay within 48 hours of this email. They forgot. The invoice got buried. A quick reminder is really all it takes. Step 2, the follow-up at 45 days. If there's no response to the 30-day email, you follow up. Still email, but slightly more direct. Hey, following up on my note from the previous email regarding invoice number for this amount, can we get an update on timing for this payment? I want to make sure we stay on track. You're asking for a specific answer. Timing. Not are you going to pay? We're going to assume that they are, but when? That's a subtle but important distinction. It assumes payment is happening and asks only about the schedule. The third step, at 60 days, you pick up the phone. No more emails. Not a voicemail if you can afford it, if you can avoid it. A conversation. Hi, I'm calling about this invoice for this amount that's been outstanding since this date. I sent a couple of emails and I haven't heard back. I want to make sure everything is okay and get a sense of when we can expect payment. Keep your voice warm and curious, not confrontational. You do not want to be confrontational when you're doing collections ever. You're just checking in, not accusing. Give them space to explain. Most clients will have a real reason. There was a cash flow issue on their end, an approval that stuck, a personnel change that caused something to fall through the cracks. It may even be something personal, like my client who had a child that died. And then you have information that you can work on. I'm so sorry to hear that. Can I follow up with you in 2 weeks? Because I don't want this to go on. Can we agree to a specific date for payment, even a partial payment? And a lot of times, even offering a payment plan at this point will help them get a date, write it down, and hold them to it. I put a lot of things on my calendar for this. Step 4, the formal notice at 90 days. If you've had the phone conversation and the commitment wasn't kept, you move to a formal written notice. This one goes by email. And by the way, I'd probably even put it in snail mail. It's more direct. This is a formal notice that invoice number for this amount is now 90 days past due. Payment is required by 10 days from now. If I don't receive payment or hear from you by that date, I'll need to explore other options for collection. Now, that's deliberately vague. Other options for collection. It could mean a collections agency. It could mean small claims court. It could mean stopping work. You don't have to specify. The implication's enough in most cases. Now, step 5, over 90 days. At this point, you have a choice, and only you can make it. Do you pursue collection to a collections agency, through small claims court, through a demand letter from an attorney, or do you write it off, learn from it, and move on? There's no right answer. It depends on the amount, the relationship, the cost of pursuit, your read on the situation. When I tell you that writing it off without making the conscious decision, just what I will tell you, my brain's working faster than I'm able to speak. What I will tell you is that writing it off without making a conscious decision, rather than just letting it drift into the I'll deal with that eventually pile, is not a strategy. Make the call, document it, and move forward. Now, I've talked about this before, and I want to come back to this again. The fear I named at the beginning, that following up on overdue invoices damages client relationships. Here's what I actually see in practice. Clients who value the relationship pay on time. When they don't, when a good client goes past 30 days or 90 days, they almost always appreciate the direct conversation because they know they owe you. The awkwardness is on their end, not yours. Your call gives them an easy path to resolve it. Again, with my friend in marketing that I had hired, that I owed money to, I owed an invoice. And I told him every time, I'm having a cash flow issue. I promise I will pay you. I'm not sure of the timing. Let's try. We finally worked out a payment plan that we were both okay with. And then I got enough cash in to pay him, so I did. The client, and by the way, that actually strengthened our relationship, that he kept bringing it up. He was very polite. He was very soft about it. But he let me know that he was not, he wasn't ignoring it. He knew that I needed to pay him, and I knew that he needed to pay him. And because we were talking about it, he knew that I knew, and I knew that he knew. So really it strengthened the relationship because he wasn't mean about it or anything. He was very, very understanding. I was just about in tears because a lot had happened at that point. A lot had happened in my personal life that made it very difficult to work on a business like this. And I appreciated his patience. I still do. Let me emphasize, I was the debtor. It did not damage the relationship. It almost never does. If they value your relationship, they'll pay on time. Or if they don't, they'll have a reason. The awkwardness is on their end. I'm going to say that again. The awkwardness is on their end, not yours. The clients whose relationship does get damaged by a collections conversations are usually the ones who are planning to take advantage of the silence. And the relationship that gets damaged by you following up professionally is not a relationship worth protecting. The business owners I see with the healthiest client relationships are almost always the ones that with the clearest payment terms and the most consistent follow-up processes. Not because clarity is cold, but because clarity is respectful. It says, I take my business seriously. I expect you to take it seriously too. That's not a message that damages good client relationship. It's the message that builds them. One more thing before I close. The best collections process is the one you almost never have to use. 3 things prevent most receivables problems before they start. 1, clear payment terms in writing before the work begins. In our business, that is with an engagement letter or an agreement. It's not assumed, it's not verbal, it is in an engagement letter or an invoice or the proposal, net 30, net 15 or net 30, whatever your standard is stated explicitly and acknowledged by them. So in our case, the engagement letter or the agreement for ongoing work covers payment. It explains how we're going to get paid. We get paid through ACH withdrawals that we initiate, which is why we have hardly any receivables. And it's all laid out in the agreement. The client who hasn't read the agreement is kind of not my problem. Upfront deposits for new clients and large projects. 25 to 50% deposit before work begins accomplishes 2 things. Number 1, it filters out clients who are not serious, and it ensures you're never doing significant work with 0 cash collected. Automatic payment process options. Like I said, we do it through an ACH withdrawal. We initiate it. We tell them, it's going to come out on the 1st of the month or whatever date they started. Or the nearest weekday. It's automatic. Friction in the payment process is one of the underrated causes of slow receivables and indeed slow sales. I remember going to Payless shoe stores many years ago, and they didn't take debit cards or credit cards. I couldn't run my card as a credit. They only took debit cards. Well, I went there twice. I had a terrible time trying to pay, and I never went back because at least at the location close to my house, which is the one I was going to, it was so difficult to pay that I didn't want that friction. So I started going to Famous. I went to a different shoe store to get shoes for my kids. Friction in the payment process is not only one of the underrated causes of slow receivables, it's also one of the underrated causes of low sales. That's how important it is. When money is sitting in your accounts receivable, you've already earned it. It's just sitting in your receivables column instead of your bank account because nobody made it easy enough or urgent enough to collect it. The process I walked through is not aggressive. This is the one that I've used, by the way, for years. And it's also the one I used when I very first moved to Utah. I was the collections and accounts receivable clerk for a small business here. And it was one of my first jobs in Utah. So it's been 27, 28 years. And I used this exact process, except instead of using email, I actually used letters, snail mail. And I brought our accounts receivable down for that client from $2 million that they had in AR to 20,000 because I used this particular process. It's not aggressive, it's not uncomfortable, it's just consistent. And consistency is what turns chronic receivables problems into a manageable one. When I took that job, they expected me to have to work 40 hours a week to get the money in. Within 6 weeks, believe it or not, they laid me off because they were up to date and current on the receivables. Pull your aging report this week. Look at what's sitting past 90 days or past 30 days. Make a call. That's the start. If you want help setting up a receivables process that actually works, or if you want someone to look at your aging report and tell you what they see, we would love to have that conversation. You can find us at mysimplebookkeeping.com. The first call is free. And I will have all of our website, phone number, everything in the description. Also, if you enjoyed this show, if I said something that made you sit up and pay attention, or if I brought you any benefit, please like, share, and subscribe. If you're on YouTube, hit the red notification bell so that you are notified when new episodes are uploaded. I'm Donna Harris. This is Books and Backbone. Go get paid what you've earned.